In a classroom full of chatty students, the MC contemplates the importance of moderation. It only took him until age 16 to realize that less is more. Take friendships, for example. He's all about keeping it cool with his pals and classmates. Now in his second year of high school, things have been pretty laid back. Abekura hopes for a normal teacher to stroll in and keep the vibe going. But when she finally makes her entrance, it's like Halloween came early. She's got blood dripping from her head. The students are totally freaked out by her. She starts mumbling something, and everyone is lost, wondering what she's even trying to say. Some think she might be putting a curse on them because she's shaking and still bleeding. Meet Hiimura, the super hot sensei with a side of spooky. Rumor has it that if you tick her off, she might just curse you. They call her the scary teacher for a reason. One student even saw her notebook filled with curse seals. A bunch of them complain about how she randomly hits them and curses them on top of it. After hearing so many stories, our boy and his buddy can't help but think about how rough it is to have such a gorgeous but terrifying teacher. Frustrated that she's teaching them something he hadn't expected and isn't normal, he vents, only for his friend to tease him about his obsession with normalcy. Then it hits him. He left some papers in the classroom. When he goes back to grab them, he sees Hiyori-sensei totally sweating and shaking, struggling to speak up. He's confused, thinking, is this really his scary sensei? What's she doing here all by herself? She looks completely freaked out, trying to let him know that class is about to start. But class is already done, and there's not a single student in sight. Instead, there's an army of stuffed animals lounging around like they own the place. He starts to wonder if she's actually using them to put a curse on students. By now, he's starting to think that the rumors could be true. Sensei calls out to one of the stuffed animals and asks it to answer a question. The toy is right in front of her. She uses a silly voice to answer for it and gets super excited when she says it's correct and scored 100 points. It's like she's playing two roles at once, and he figures she's just practicing for a class with the stuffed animals. Her voice is shaking so much he can barely make out what she's saying. She realizes she needs to speak up a bit more. Taking a deep breath, he thinks this is how she should draw in air and let her voice flow. But then she does something unexpected, totally catching him off guard. He's puzzled about why she's taking off her clothes. She says it's because her stomach feels tight, but now she can finally relax a little. Still, that's not really how it works. When she speaks again, her voice is shaky and awkward. He used to find her intimidating, but now she seems almost fragile, shy even. Maybe she just needs more exercise. Either way, he can't help but notice her. She decides to take a quick break and heads toward the chair, but it catches Abekura off guard since it had been pushed back earlier. He rushes over, telling her to watch out and trying to stop her. But he ends up helping her out and prevents her from taking a spill. When she sees him, she gets a bit freaked out. He explains he just came to grab something he forgot, but noticed her practicing. Sensei totally freezes up and starts to sweat again. In a shy voice, she confesses that being a teacher has always been her dream. But since she struggles with social anxiety and tends to be clumsy, she really wants to do well at her job. As she talks, her voice keeps dropping lower and lower. She mentions that in the morning, she got a bit reckless and bumped into the door, which is why she was bleeding and the kids freaked out. Then, all of a sudden, she remembers something and grabs her diary to check the plan for the next class. Turns out, those weren't curse seals at all, just her notes. She rushes up but bumps into him. She quickly apologizes, mumbling something that makes him realize she's not actually scary. She's got a soft voice, isn't super tough, but puts in a lot of effort. Furthermore, she's just a bit shy and fragile as a teacher. He mentions he needs to go, but she calls out for him to wait. She mumbles something, but he doesn't catch it, so he apologizes and asks her to repeat. Sensei steps in closer and whispers, "Thanks for helping her out earlier." Just like that, our lad falls for her, all because of a small gesture. The next day, the students are startled when they see Sensei dragging a large bag behind her. Curiosity spreads through the classroom as everyone tries to guess what's inside. As usual, her mysterious appearance and tired expression make the students uneasy. Despite this, Abekura knows that beneath her spooky reputation, she's actually a very shy and gentle teacher. Someone in the class wonders aloud if she's just taking out the classroom trash and notices how exhausted she looks. She simply explains that the bag is heavier than she expected, offering no further details. Abekura, despite wanting to live a quiet and ordinary school life, finds himself constantly thinking about her ever since their last interaction. While most of the students are wary around Sensei because of her pale complexion and quiet demeanor, He's come to see how deeply committed she is to her work, even if she doesn't always show it in obvious ways. Later, while he's cleaning up after school, he takes much longer than usual, distracted by his thoughts. When he finally finishes, he decides to head out but ends up wandering near the ground. There he spots Sensei engaged in what looks like a personal workout routine. Curious, he stays out of sight and quietly observes. She's in the middle of stretching and counting her reps, clearly giving the exercise her full effort. He notices that she's wearing an old-school jacket, one she must have worn when she was a student. It's a bit snug on her now, and she already looks pretty tired, even though she's just warming up. After a short break, she picks up a jump rope and begins practicing. It's a simple exercise, but it quickly becomes clear she's struggling with it. Her coordination is off, and she keeps getting tangled in the rope, though she keeps trying with determination. Abekura is both impressed and puzzled by her effort, especially since she doesn't seem to be making much progress. Eventually, she trips over the rope, just as he feared. Worried she might get hurt, he rushes over and manages to catch her just in time. She's surprised but quickly recovers, brushing off the moment and explaining her reason for practicing. It turns out she's preparing for a school-wide jump rope tournament coming up in October. She's nervous about letting her class down, so she's been training in secret. Abekura suggests she focus on building her strength first, but she admits it's difficult to train on her own. Whenever she gets too tired and lets out a loud noise, the neighbors get scared because her voice sounds unusually intense. Finally, she asks him for help. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, Abekura agrees. As he helps her stretch and work on her form, he becomes even more aware of how unsure and self-conscious she really is behind her eerie appearance. They talk a bit about what kind of person she hopes to become, someone strong, confident, and good at teaching. It makes Abekura reflect on himself too. As the session continues, he watches her trying hard, even when she's clearly struggling, and he finds it oddly inspiring. Though the situation is far from what he expected, he realizes that maybe helping her isn't so bad after all. At school, a student notes that her sensei is making way to class, but she drops her schedule book. The student rushes over to help, but accidentally calls her a scary teacher. The girl takes a quick peek at Sensei's schedule book and completely freaks out at the weird stuff written inside. She ends up bolting away, apologizing. In reality, no one knows that their teacher is actually a shy and nervous teacher who puts in a ton of effort. People often misunderstand her, and Abekura can't really blame the students. Still, he's curious about why she'd organize the names just to remember her students. He sees how hard she tries, but it does come off a bit awkward. He just wishes there was something he could do to help her out. He can't shake the feeling that he's wasting a ton of time thinking about her when all he really wants is a normal school life. So he decides to grab some manga and chill out. But of course, fate has other ideas. To his surprise, Sensei is also in the store, browsing through some manga, and she's actually laughing and having a good time. When he spots her, he dives behind a shelf, freaking out over what she's doing there. Did she finish work already? Then he notices that she's got tears in her eyes while reading one of the books. It looks like she's going through the author's biography. He can't make out the words, but it's clear she's struggling to hold back her tears. As she heads to buy those manga, he gets more curious about the book she's got in her hands. Turns out it's a guide on dealing with hypersensitivity and some tips for teaching. Just as she's about to leave, he notices she's picking up those types of books again. It honestly hits him hard, and he feels like crying watching her. But then she suddenly stops and checks her wallet, looking stressed. He realizes she can't actually afford them. He can't believe she's struggling to count her money. She keeps going over it again and again. Finally, she has enough cash. The cashier asks if she wants to buy a shopping bag for an extra 5 yen, and she starts to panic. Meanwhile, he's thinking she might be just 5 yen short of her budget. As she looks at the books, sweating a bit, she decides to just take them without a bag. She pulls it off and buys them, but he doubts she can carry them like that. The books just won't fit in her bag, and it's pouring outside. There's no way she can get home safely with just an umbrella and 3 books in hand. She starts to shiver, and he knows she can't handle it. He checks his backpack to see if he has anything useful and calls out to her, but she slips and they end up bumping into each other. Sensei quickly apologizes and asks if he's also there to grab a book. He nods, pulls out a bag, and tells her to use it. He reassures her that it's no big deal if it's a bit wrinkled. It's better than nothing. She's really thankful for his help. Out of nowhere, a car zooms by and splashes water all over her. They both just stop, totally stunned. Our lad is freaked out seeing her like that. At least she feels lucky that the bag he gave her kept her books safe from the water. Those bags they sell at the checkout aren't waterproof, but that plastic one actually did the trick. She can't help but think that these annoying things always seem to happen to her. It makes her wonder if he gave her the bag knowing this would happen. She really loves her books and appreciates him for keeping them dry. But she's still all wet, so he averts his gaze and tells her to put something on. Poor Sensei really doesn't have the best luck either. The next morning, Abekura walks to school, still feeling sleepy. Sensei suddenly storms in, looking like she's in a rush. He calls out to her, wondering why she's running like that. She greets him and admits she's not a morning person, so she overslept. He notes she's yoa, feeble, in the morning as well. She tells him their second period is a long homeroom together, but he tries to warn her about that loose button on her shirt. One of the students walks by, and Sensei greets her in that weird way again, and it totally freaks the girl out. Honestly, she can be pretty scary sometimes, so everyone else thinks she's koa spooky. After the first period ends, his friend asks for notes, admitting he slept through class. Smacking him with the notes, he suddenly realizes it's true. Homeroom is actually second period. It's the first time it's an hour since the new semester began. He's not sure if Sensei can actually handle things. Her short homerooms are already a mess. The students are feeling uneasy as she shows up totally exhausted and sweating. She mumbles something that sounds like kill, and just hearing that sends a chill down everyone's spine. It feels like the homeroom of doom has begun. She seems like she's in way over her head, and everyone is definitely scared of her. She scribbles something weird and creepy on the board, her hands shaking, and her face flushed from her morning run. The students start freaking out, wondering if this is some kind of strange ritual or their own funeral in the making. She's feeling anxious and a bit lost. When she bends down to grab a cutter she dropped, she hears a rip. Glancing back, she sees that her stocking has torn. The sight terrifies her. The students notice their scary teacher holding a box cutter while trembling hard. They start thinking she might be building up strength to attack. She almost looks like she's strangling her own stiff muscles, as if she's about to throw the cutter. But Abekura knows she's too weak, and believes there might be another reason she can't move. He wonders if she just got a cramp in her leg. Since this is her first long homeroom with everyone, our lad decides to step in and take matters into his own hands. He announces that he's joining the class committee and walks over to her. Leaning in, he quietly asks if she's okay, but then he freezes, her stocking snagged on a nail and tears. She asks for help, but he freezes, stunned to realize she isn't wearing anything underneath. He's just thinking about how she ended up in this situation. She tells him she overslept and totally forgot to put them on. Plus, her leg is cramping up. Even though Abekura feels super awkward about touching her stockings in front of everyone, he can't just walk away. Sensei is asking for help. She really doesn't want her first homeroom with the class to be a complete disaster. He reaches for her stockings, but the fabric snaps, making her flinch. The whole class goes silent, watching this bizarre scene unfold. Sensei finally stands up and announces they'll now decide the remaining committee members. Abekura is left wondering if Yoa Sensei's leg muscles are also weak. The next morning, the students are super tired. Poor Sensei is still mumbling, shaking, and trembling. The students can barely make out her English. Her handwriting is clear and easy to read, but she's really struggling. Even though she's not the strongest, she's giving it her all. As class wraps up, Abekura is totally annoyed. He just joined the school council, and now his simple school life is turning into a mess. On top of that, he got a note from Sensei asking to talk about some management stuff and telling him to stick around after class. He feels a bit lost about their upcoming chat, especially since it'll be just the two of them. Things take a turn when Sensei suddenly shows up with a megaphone, muttering to herself. She tries to get his attention, but he can't hear her. He thought they were going to talk about managing the class, but then she spills that she got some feedback at the staff meeting today. Apparently, some folks said her voice is tough to hear and questioned if it was an issue. Since it was just a minor complaint, she figures the megaphone might help her voice carry better to everyone. It definitely boosts her voice, but she still kind of mumbles. She thinks it's a good idea, but the real issue is that communicating is tough for her. She feels that if they can fix that, a lot of misunderstandings might clear up. After taking a moment, she asks him if everyone is scared of her. She starts to feel down, thinking people avoid eye contact with her. But then she notices he talks to her like it's no big deal. Now that she thinks about it, she heard he wasn't the type to speak up much in his first year. but this year he went for student council. She finds herself admiring how he interacts with her, even if he seems a bit nervous. He believes the megaphone is a solid plan, but suggests she should work on her pronunciation. As she talks louder into it, he encourages her, letting her know he can hear her just fine. She steps up to the podium and asks him if he can catch her voice from the back. When she tries it out, he hears her clearly. She wonders if everyone will finally stop being scared of her, and he reassures her that it'll be fine. With that, she asks if her feelings are reaching him, and he assures her they are. She brightens up, appreciating how he's always saving her, but he knows he's just going along with her when she gives it her all. Still, she's clumsy and simply does her best. But he can't help but keep his eyes on her. He starts to think he might actually like her, and realizes that falling in love with his teacher is anything but modest. She gets tired pretty quick, and the megaphone slips out of her grasp. It crashes against her, and he panics, thinking he needs to help her. As they both reach for it at the same time, things get a bit awkward. He says sorry, but it gets amplified through the megaphone, completely surprising her. As he tries to walk away, the megaphone picks up his voice again, leaving her flustered and full of butterflies. Embarrassed, she asks him to stop talking. They end up leaving without even discussing class management. Before parting, she calls out, saying she looks up to him as class president and hopes they can work hard together from now on. The next morning, the teacher announces a physical test. She invites the special guest is Hiimura Sensei. As she moves ahead, the students start freaking out, thinking she's there to put a curse on them, even during Gen class. But really, she's just a hard worker who's not very strong. The instructor mentions that she's not very confident in her skills, so the others thought it'd be a good idea for her to try this out with them. Our lad is worried about her joining the class. This subject is pretty serious, and she shouldn't be pushing her stamina like that. They kick things off by checking her grip strength. The instructor calls out to Abekura, asks if he's on the student council, and pairs him up with Hiimura Sensei for the test. He tells her to use her right hand first. She mentions she's been hitting the weights lately and is ready to give it her all. She squeezes the grip strength meter, but seeing her, he's taken aback. Not a fan of that, he reminds her to keep her back straight and arms apart. He feels relieved she didn't end up paired with another boy. Turns out her grip strength is about what you'd expect from a typical 10-year-old girl, only 15 kilograms. Next up, she gives the side steps and other strength tests a shot. But she gets tired pretty fast, just like always. She's really not the strongest. For the last challenge, they're doing the standing long jump in pairs. A girl named Mukubayashi and Sensei find themselves next to each other. That other girl is super chatty, confident, and in great shape. She can dash 50 meters in just 4 seconds and crush 100 side steps without breaking a sweat. This pairing feels a bit unfair. Abekura knows that if Sensei gets compared to her, it's gonna mess with her confidence. He stands close by, ready to measure. When they call for it, Mukubayashi springs into action, jumping a solid 5 meters. It's not a world record or anything, but it's still pretty cool. She looks over and sees Sensei already on the ground, totally worn out, as if she fainted. The air pressure alone seemed to knock her off balance, like she felt the shockwave from Mukubayashi's jump. Poor Sensei apologizes, saying she can't jump, before collapsing again. The scene cuts to the nurse's office, and it's clear things have gone downhill. The nurse steps out for a bit, leaving him to look after her. He reassures Sensei that she doesn't need to worry. She really did try her best. She starts crying and asks if it wasn't fun. She says it felt amazing to be in the same spot as the students. While she's talking, she passes out again, and as always, our lad ends up in an awkward position. Her heart starts racing, and she apologizes, promising to move right away, but she faints again, landing delicately. He manages to get her onto the bed, where she dreams about being able to do 10 side steps. He thinks that's pretty good for her. Abekura notes that Sensei is weak in the strength test, just like with so many other tasks. Mukubayashi Mizuki narrates that her homeroom teacher is Koa Sensei. She's yelling through a megaphone, telling everyone to hand out the printouts. Now that the megaphone is working, students can actually understand her. But guess what? Her ID photo somehow got mixed in the printouts. After class, some students, super freaked out by the scary Sensei, turn to Mizuki, begging her to save them if they ever end up cursed. She jumps in, declaring that even a push of her arm would spell trouble, and promises to look out for everyone. After school, she rushes over to check on Sensei, even though she finds her pretty scary. She thinks it might be a bit early, but when she gets there, she sees our poor Sensei and Abekura trying to fix the stuffed toys that got damaged. She is completely freaked out and taken aback. Noting that the plushies have students' names on them, she can't help but wonder if this is some kind of summoning thing. When she spots the blood, it hits her that, yep, this is definitely a summoning ritual. Now she's convinced that the sensei is pretty scary. Sensei remembers Mukubayashi, wondering aloud, maybe she forgot something. But Abekura points out that it's not good since she's looking a little creepy right now. He figures there's no way to explain this mess at the moment. Sensei explains to Abekura that things always end up like this. She had just noticed a tear in a plushie, tried to fix it, but accidentally cut her finger. Still, she knows she needs to sort everything out. But when she approaches Mukubayashi, the girl gets even more freaked out. Sensei jumps into explaining, but her nervous rambling gives her the wrong idea that Sensei's actually doing some kind of ritual practice. The poor sensei is really trying to explain but keeps mumbling, which makes Mukubayashi think she's planning to turn all the students into plushies. She's freaking out, convinced it's even worse than the rumors say. It's all true, so she marches up to Sensei, accusing her of trying to control the class through fear and claims that next she'll take over the whole school. She tells her not to come near her again. Our guy thinks Sensei has never been treated so badly. He feels like it's already game over for her, so he steps in, telling Mukubayashi to give her a chance. But Mukubayashi fires back at him too, saying she won't talk to this brainwashed Abekura. She goes on about how everyone says he is Sensei's first pawn and that she's brainwashing him to be her sad little familiar. She's fired up because they used to go to the same elementary school. Furthermore, she thinks he isn't the kind of guy who'd ever run for class president. Back then, he's super shy and has zero confidence. That's how she still sees him. But now she's had enough. Slamming her fist on the wall, she vows to protect the school, especially for those who turned into plushies. Our guy thinks this whole thing is messed up. Sensei and Mukubayashi shouldn't be going at it like this. He steels himself, realizing he's got no choice. He tells Sensei to run while he tries to hold Mukubayashi back. Sensei is totally mesmerized by the girl's strength. A moment of silence hits, and then she opens up, saying that even though Mukubayashi's scared of her, she faced her for everyone. She shares that she's always looked up to Mukubayashi since she was awesome during the last physical test too. She explains that it's all a misunderstanding and that the idea of her harming everyone is wrong. But she gets a little too hyped and ends up stumbling, and while trying to save her, our guy ends up snagging the luck of all humanity because he finds himself caught between them. Mukubayashi totally freaks out and backs away. Sensei, on the other hand, is starting to feel weak because of her anemia from earlier bleeding. Then Mukubayashi realizes it's all just a misunderstanding. The scary sensei is actually weak and struggling, but she can't shake off the crazy stuff that just went down. She starts blaming Abekura, thinking he's taking advantage of Sensei's situation. She gets ready to take him on, convinced that Abekura is the real enemy, not Sensei. Meanwhile, he's just checking in on their poor teacher. The scene transitions to Abekura, awkwardly collapsed beside Yoa Sensei. Out of nowhere, Mukubayashi barges in, completely clueless. There's this super awkward silence, then she just starts yelling that he's up to his usual creepy stuff again. He scrambles to cover, insisting Sensei just took a spill, and he's telling the truth. Trying to shift the focus, he asks why she showed up after class ended. But she throws it back. What exactly did he forget? He starts to answer, unsure, but she's clearly not convinced. Calmly, she says she came to see Hiimura Sensei. She runs up and gives her a big hug, saying sorry for all the mean stuff she said before. She can't believe she ever thought Sensei was scary. Now she gets that Sensei was really trying her best. She even asks if she can call her by her first name, Hiimura, which totally confuses our guy, but Sensei just smiles and says she's super happy about it. Meanwhile, he's still trying to wrap his head around it all. Sensei mentions she's always wanted to be that teacher who's close with her students. Then she just starts crying and apologizing for not understanding Mukubayashi better. Both of them start sobbing harder and go in for another hug. Mukubayashi tells her she's super cute and can't believe she ever thought she looked scary. She admits that seeing her all covered in blood just left a strong impression. Meanwhile, our guy can't believe how much fun Sensei is having with her compared to him. Then Mukubayashi has a thought and says she should be the class rep since she can support Sensei way better than Abekura. He snaps at her, asking what she's even talking about. She jumps in, thinking that maybe he's just taking advantage of Hiimura's kindness for some weird reason. She feels like he wants to be class rep just to get closer to her for some hidden agenda. Finally, Sensei starts to speak up, saying he's not that kind of guy. She explains that he's someone who put himself out there, summoning his courage to run for the spot. Mukubayashi seems to buy it but still insists he's not cut out for it and mentions he can back out any time. She offers to listen if Sensei needs anything, saying she's good at giving advice. When Sensei hears this, she notices that Mukubayashi has a really nice, loud voice. She asks for some tips since projecting her voice is tough for her. Mukubayashi states that all she needs to do is go goo-woo, take a breath, and then let out a sudden dawn. Both Sensei and our guy are left completely stunned. Mukubayashi steps back and yells that Abekura is really dumb, which catches everyone off guard. Abekura fires back, asking what she's up to and arguing that she's making a scene. Sensei realizes that if she can shout like that, teaching outdoors would be a breeze. But he isn't buying it and tells Sensei not to get influenced. Still, she gives it a shot, yelling about Abekura, but her voice is so weak it just fades into the air. Mukubayashi wonders if maybe her stomach is tight. She goes to check, but accidentally rips Sensei's skirt, which totally freaks them both out. Our guy is sweating, while Mukubayashi fumbles for an apology, admitting she doesn't really know her own strength. She explains how she usually ends up breaking normal things: doors, desks, even vending machines. She offers another quick apology, but the sensei just waves it off, unfazed. Apparently, this sort of thing happens to her all the time. Mukubayashi, noticing how far she went to act all cool, decides to tear her own skirt too. She yells at our lad, asking him to check it out because she wants to experience the same level of embarrassment as Sensei. But he's on a different track. He's not about to waste any opportunity. He suddenly takes off his pants, which totally shocks her, until she realizes he's just handing them to her. She realizes that he did it for their sake. She kneels down, admitting she can't be class rep if she's making Hiimura look bad. Still, she's confused about why he had to strip too. Sensei tries to lighten the mood with a joke about the three of them having a great time. Mukubayashi and Abekura glance at each other, both a little stunned. They're still in their underwear, yet somehow, our guy keeps his class rep title. Ever since that incident, Mukubayashi's been crashing their class meetings. Now Abekura is totally bummed at home. And since then, Sensei has been acting all cheerful. He believes that if he bumps up his English grade, maybe she'll notice him more. Out of nowhere, someone pops in with a casual comment about how serious Akito looks. He freaks out, saying she should have knocked. It's Akemi Oni-chan, his big sis. With a long holiday starting, she figured she'd come by and help him out. She asks if she should tidy up his room and what he wants for food. He brushes her off, claiming his room is already clean and he's cooked food. She can't shake off her frustration. They're finally living together again, but he still acts so independent. He puts all the blame on her, saying she spoiled him too much when he was old enough to know better. He insists that depending on his sister isn't the way to live a balanced life. She thinks about it and remembers how he used to lean on her all the time. She even kept his old socks as some sort of good luck charm, which totally creeps him out. Furthermore, she asks him if he's been working too hard lately. He used to keep things more chill, but now he's always in a rush to get to school. She figures it's because of his class rep stuff, but he thinks it's more about their new homeroom teacher being a bit odd, and honestly, he's been enjoying school more since then. She notices he doesn't let her spoil him like he used to, but she still believes that if Abekura is happy, then his Oni-chan is happy too. She just can't help but be all maternal, even if she can't really spoil him. And honestly, she's totally wishing for some mischievous kids so she can go all out spoiling them. On the flip side, the sensei is at home, enjoying a nice, refreshing bath. She thinks about how she has been a teacher for a month already and has faced more problems than she expected. As she starts thinking about Abekura, a warm flush creeps over her face. She's lucky. He's such a kind, thoughtful student. Shaking the thoughts off, she wraps herself in a towel and gets dressed. With the long holiday underway, she figures it's the perfect time to catch up on a few things, starting with finally introducing herself to the neighbors next door. As she takes a step, her foot slips, and it makes a loud racket enough to be heard by her neighbor. Meanwhile, a sound is heard in Abekura's room. His sister runs over, thinking it's a delivery or something. But when he hears the voices, he goes to see what's up, as he didn't order anything. Turns out it's Sensei, totally wiped out and sweating, just chilling in his Oni-chan's lap. As he steps into the living room, he's met with a surreal sight. Sensei, looking flustered and out of place, being gently looked after by his older sister. The shock hits him all at once. Sensei, equally startled, suddenly realizes where she is and starts panicking. The whole situation is completely out of the ordinary. Akemi, on the other hand, remains calm. It doesn't take her long to figure things out. She's quick to recognize that this flustered young woman is actually his homeroom teacher. She casually explains that she just stopped by to say hello, no big deal. But for him, the realization that Sensei is living right next door feels like something out of a dream, or maybe a sitcom gone off the rails. Still overwhelmed, Sensei immediately begins apologizing. She explains that her boss recommended this apartment, and she only planned to stay for a short while, just until she had enough money to move. She clearly doesn't want to cause any trouble. But Akemi's not having it. Her practical side kicks in. She insists there's no point in moving just for the sake of appearances or embarrassment. It's a decent place, and there's no need to waste money over something so minor. Sensei hesitates at first, unsure how to respond, but Akemi's firm kindness wears her down. Eventually, she nods and agrees to stay, visibly relieved. While all this is happening, Abekura stands there, still trying to process everything. As Akemi gets a pot of tea going and offers Sensei a seat, she starts casually asking questions. How the job's been, whether it's been stressful, and if she's adjusting to the workload. Sensei explains that she's only been teaching for a month, and though she expected challenges, it's already been a whirlwind. The conversation shifts when Akemi asks about her eating habits. Sensei admits she hasn't had the time or energy to cook, so most of her meals come from the convenience store, quick bento, packaged snacks, whatever's easiest. That immediately sets off alarm bells for both Akemi and her brother. He starts quietly worrying while Akemi teases Sensei a little, then offers a simple solution. She tells Sensei to come by their place for meals whenever she can. She tries to politely decline, clearly not wanting to impose, but Akemi's warm, maternal energy makes it impossible to refuse. She leans in, gently nudging Sensei to take better care of herself, insisting it's no trouble at all. Eventually, Akemi turns her attention to her brother, telling him to get back to studying. She wants to continue pampering Sensei without having a student lurking around. He hesitates, still stunned by how quickly his sister has taken over the situation, but finally heads back to his room. As he sits at his desk, books open in front of him, he starts to wonder if having Akemi around might actually be a good thing. He might finally start eating real meals again. Still, his mind keeps drifting back to the living room. About 10 minutes later, curiosity wins. He peeks back into the main room to see what's going on. To his surprise, it's not chaos. It's calm. Sensei and Akemi are sitting on the couch, chatting like old friends. Akemi continues to fuss over her, and Sensei, though still slightly embarrassed, seems more relaxed than before. It's an unusual scene, his homeroom teacher being looked after by his older sister in their living room. But somehow, it doesn't feel wrong. It's strange, yes, but also oddly comforting. The holiday break has only just begun, but already things are taking a turn he never expected. Since Yoa Sensei just moved in next to Abekura's place, he's feeling pretty excited. He gets those butterflies in his stomach, but is trying to not overthink it. He tells himself to keep things chill and just a good balance in their relationship. As he steps out onto the balcony, he spots our Sensei there too, and she says good morning. She asks if that's his futon and mentions that the weather's nice today. He's completely surprised to see her and thinks it's lucky they both ended up in this apartment. He responds and starts asking her stuff like how far she is from settling in and whether she's unpacked everything. Feeling a bit unsure as usual, she tries to explain what's going on. But he glances into her messy room first. Realizing he's seen it, she quickly starts to talk, insisting that it's no big deal and there's nothing to worry about. Out of nowhere, Oni-chan jumps in, giving our Sensei a big hug. Our lad wonders why she's even there, but she's totally in that big sister vibe. She asks if something's bothering Sensei and if she's not going to tell Oni-chan. With tears in her eyes, Sensei admits she rushed and lost an important document. Oni-chan jumps in, saying they're going to find it. She snuggles Sensei and reassures her that Abekura can help search too. When he walks into her room, she tells him it was just a memo for class. She planned to go over everyone's weak points with it and had stayed up all night working on it before dozing off. The next day, she had to shuffle everything around. Meanwhile, he's just really confused about why she would go through all that trouble for them. Panicking, she quickly clarifies that she didn't include any personal info or anything. He's like, sorry to interrupt, and goes to check off the boxes for the memo. Then he asks if he can flip open a box and takes a look inside. But when he opens it, he finds her inappropriate attire, which freaks both of them out. He thinks the design is incredible and wonders if she wears that kind of undergarment too. She's sweating bullets and starts insisting he's got it all wrong. She mentions that the last time she was at the store, someone recommended it to her, and she has a hard time saying no. So our poor sensei is a bit of a softie when it comes to sales tactics. She admits she doesn't wear stuff like that every day and that it was super pricey. In fact, she only pulls it out for holidays. He says sorry and starts looking through different boxes. When he opens one, he finds a bunch of plush fish inside. He tells her about it and asks what's up. She explains that she thought she left them behind, so she figured the memo was at her parents' place. He asks if she really likes fish, and she lights up, saying she totally loves them. She thinks sea creatures are super cute with all their different shapes and lifestyles. Plus, she really enjoys seafood. The papers are still nowhere to be found, though. Meanwhile, he thinks she looks adorable when she's in a good mood. They're rifling through every cardboard box, but still can't track them down. She's almost ready to switch topics for her class, since she wanted to give a memo to every student. Thankfully, only a few papers are missing, so she's set on trying again tonight. He's really set on sticking with her and taking one last look. As he checks another box, he suddenly notices the memo at the bottom and says it's found. It was tucked away between the folds of the cardboard. After finding it, our sensei admires it while looking totally flustered. She knows it took a lot of work to make, so she feels really grateful to him. But suddenly, some of the boxes tumble onto her, and he rushes in to save her. She apologizes for causing trouble again. The next day after classes, our guy sees Hiimura sensei again. She's back from her break and still kind of intimidating the other students. He goes up to her, encouraging her that she really put in the effort today. As usual, she calls out to him and mumbles a bit. She shares that there's been a kid in their class who hasn't shown up since the new semester started. She's been jotting down notes for that student every day, just waiting for them to come back. He asks her for the student's address so he can drop off the notes since he's the class rep right now. She gets all excited and says that if it's the diligent him, maybe that kid will finally open up. Thanking him, she decides to tag along. She mentions that the kid is a bit quirky. He's figured out that an absent student is a tough topic. When they reach the kid's house, he rings the bell. Suddenly, something feels off as someone unexpectedly jumps in and hugs her inappropriately. Looks like it's just a little kid. Our lad is totally terrified, trying to figure out who this is. The kid snaps at him, asking who he thinks he is. He says their Hiimura sensei always comes alone and isn't too happy she brought this loser with her. Abekura greets him. The kid introduces himself as Yuki. He seems totally cocky, making our guy wonder if this kid is really the same year as him. He realizes that the absentee is a guy, though he also can't shake off the fact that Yuki is continuously making Sensei uncomfortable. Terrified, our guy snaps him out of it and checks on Sensei to make sure she's okay. But our cool Sensei tries to chill things out, saying it could just be the kid's way of showing love. She explains that this might be how the child communicates. Abekura wants to have a one-on-one chat with Yuki, and Sensei is cool with it. So when they're alone, Yuki calls out, telling him not to barge into people's houses. It's pretty much trespassing. Abekura throws back that he is the one who's always crossing the line in a girl's private space, accusing him of really breaking the rules. The kid retorts that students who skip school are sensitive. He thinks it could really mess with him and make him not want to go back to school. He appreciates how hard their teacher is working for him and how open she's been. The first time she showed up at his house, he was freaked out thinking a ghost was at the door. But after she came by every day and chatted with him, he figured out she's actually a really goofy and funny person. Hearing him talk, Abekura tries to knock some sense into the kid, telling him not to touch someone he's not close with and not to do things people don't like. Yuki shrugs and says there's no helping it, always being on his own. He asks how he should even talk to people, totally throwing our lad off. Then Yuki starts teasing him, calling him silly for what he said and for his thoughts. He goes on to make fun of him for telling others not to do stuff they don't like, pointing out that he's never even been touched, so how would he know what it's like? Hearing this, our guy pokes his chest, making him feel the same thing. But Abekura is caught totally off guard. That spot feels strange, and making him wonder if it's unusual. He quickly backs off, realizing Yuki isn't a guy at all. She's actually a girl. She even starts crying. They both head outside, where Yuki runs straight to our sensei, complaining that he touched her. Terrified, our guy insists it's just a misunderstanding. Seeing this, our sensei points out that he's basically established a way to communicate.